Obstacles, threshold guardians, shapeshifters, tricksters, mentors can even mislead the hero. There's different obstacles that will pop up during the approach to the Inmost Cave. The Inmost Cave itself may be a different special world. In this case, Dorothy went from Kansas, the ordinary world, to Oz, which is a special world, to the city, the Emerald City, or whatever it was called, which is yet another special world. So now there's new rules and regulations to learn and new things for her to encounter. The hero should try to predict what's coming next and prepare for it. Doesn't mean they're going to be right, and it doesn't mean their preparations are going to be correct. So, but they're the hero. They should try to do this. Again, between the special world and the Inmost Cave is another threshold guardian. We've already discussed that, so I'm not going to beat that horse to death there. In the Inmost Cave, there should be a nearly impossible test that needs to be overcome.
But at the time you guys were going to go to...
4.
Oh, you guys are leaving at 4?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Right.
Just checking.
All right, is that early enough for you? Or?
No, that's fine.
Okay,
the
cool.
shop closes up at 4, so...
Okay, cool.
All right.
Cool. Thanks.
Sounds good.
So we have a hard stop at 4. Really.
Okay.
Yes. So, should be an impossible test that they can overcome. Complications in the Inmost Cave up the stakes, up the ante, make things more critical. Allies can step into the role of hero to save the day. They don't become the hero, they just kind of step up and say, hey, give me that hero crown for a second, okay, let me fight the threshold guardian we're facing. Okay, you can have the crown back, thank you very much. That was fun. The Inmost Cave must be well guarded. In this case, think of the Death Star with Obi-Wan deactivating the shields. And they did the ruse where Chewbacca was in the handcuffs, but they weren't clicked. And so there were multiple guards as they were trying to rescue Princess Leia from the Death Star. So the Death Star was the Inmost Cave in this case, when they were inside and all that. And obviously, if the heroes and allies don't find a way of breaking through the Inmost Cave, it's going to be a short book. Probably unfulfilling. So any questions over that? Nope. All right. So we have the ordeal. This is the deepest chamber of the Inmost Cave. Here you see the hero must die so they can be reborn. The death can be literal or figurative. But either way, the ordeal must change the hero. This must be where, so in this case, this is where Luke Skywalker's for the most part been a tag along with Obi-Wan to rescue the princess, and then Obi-Wan gets killed by Darth Vader. And at this point, that changes Luke Skywalker. He hears the voice, even though he's seen Obi-Wan die, he hears the voice, run Luke, run. And Han Solo or somebody shouts out, shoot the door, shoot the locks, and Luke Skywalker takes over and starts just banging out shots, whereas before he was just standing there watching. That's what changed Luke Skywalker from an unwilling hero to a willing hero. He's seen his friend killed. So that's what the ordeal is there. There's no peeking beyond death's door and coming out unchanged. Just as humans, we can't do that. There's going to be some change in this. Along that same point, a taste of death can be joyful for the readers and heroes. Our emotions are elastic. And what I mean by that is not that if we stretch them this far, they're going to bounce back to a middle point. They're actually going to swing. So if you ever take a rubber band, put a weight on it, and anchor the two ends and let go, it's going to swing back and forth, right? Until finally it fairly quickly comes back to a baseline. So experiencing death can be that horrifying event that's way over here, and if and when you survive it, you let go, that terror becomes joy. You'll laugh in the face of death. You guys heard that phrase? Yeah, you really do it. I've done that several times where I've had that really, really bad oh shit moment and somehow come through it, and you're happy, you're joyful, you laugh for no good reason. So, and there's different types of death. There can be the appearance of death, a witness to a death, in this case Luke Skywalker seeing Obi-Wan cut down, or you can be the cause of death. You could have killed somebody for the first time and go through all the emotional rigmarole that comes with that. At this point, the hero faces the shadow, but it's not the ultimate showdown. It's, in this case, Luke Skywalker saw across the bay, hey, that's Darth Vader over there, or maybe you didn't know the name. Hey, he looks like a bad guy. Oh, he just killed everyone. Yeah, he's a bad guy. Oh, I better run. So he's faced the shadow, but not directly and not in the ultimate climax. That comes later. The ordeal is the greatest threat to the hero that he's faced up to this point. It is not the greatest threat that he will face, but it's the biggest one so far. Any questions over the ordeal? So the reward. Time to claim the reward, but it might be a temporary reward. In this case, in Star Wars, they rescue Princess Leia. That's been the goal of the movie up to that point. The different rewards, they're all listed out here. There can be many more. You know, they celebrate, a campfire scene, love scenes, taking possession of the reward, initiation, and a lot of these apply to Star Wars when they rescue Princess Leia. So they're not mutually exclusive. But one thing that happens once you claim the reward, you have different perceptions, more character arc, more character growth. That's pretty important in the hero's journey, is character arc and character growth and character change. So at this point, the hero sees the ordinary world for what it was and the special world for what it is, and realizes his place in the special world, or his place in the ordinary world, or both. So it's an epiphany for him. And because he's just recently experienced some form of death, he'll go through the 5 stages of death, or of grief, rather, sorry. And those are listed out here on the bottom of the page. And there's different stages of grief depending on what psychologist you ask. This was the most commonly accepted one that I found on Wikipedia.
It's Kubler-Ross definition.
Right. So.
And if you want to watch a giraffe go through, it's like 30 seconds. It's
I know. It is
That's pretty
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah. So, any questions over the reward? All right. So we have the road back. This is where the hero may or may not. You can totally skip this. The hero might say, "Hey, I'm in the special world. I fit in here." You know, he's had his epiphany. He sees the world view now. He may want to stay. Screw the ordinary world. I'm going back to being a moisture farmer. I'm an X-Wing fighter now, fighter pilot now. So this is purely optional, but it's still here because it's part of the recipe, so to speak. But if you don't like the flavor of it, you don't have to use it. If the hero elects to leave the special world and return to the ordinary world, that's a whole nother adventure in itself. A lot of fantasy books, however, say they return home and then have a chapter or two on what they experience once they return home. So the road back can be very boring, can be very exciting. Honestly, the road back, for me personally, is often a very boring part of the book, both to write and to read. So I love it when authors skim over this, but that's my own personal preference. The road back is the threshold between Act 2 and Act 3. The shadow may retaliate. In this case, Princess Leia has been rescued, so Darth Vader says, okay, we're going to go blow up her world. That's his retaliation. Because the shadow hasn't been defeated, he lost a battle, but not the war. So the hero there may be chase scenes, which there was in Star Wars, where they're flying along and they're shooting up the TIE fighters and all that. There may even be pursuit by admirers. It happens in Westerns quite a bit. The young boy who sees the guy save the town, the man's leaving town, the young boy tags along, whether the hero wants him to or not. So, or if the shadow is vanquished, he may get away and show up later to wreak hell on the hero. So, any questions over the road back? 2 pages. So the resurrection. This is usually the trickiest part to write because it's the climax of the story. This is where the hero absolutely video editing. So,
JT. Is it okay, Mike? Okay, you're back. I'm sorry.
So,
Sorry.
the hero goes through the most amount of change during the resurrection. You have to show this change in the hero. That's why it's bold and underlined. They're going to have a new personality based off of their lessons learned. And it's going to be a cheap mirror image, like a cheap mirror reflecting a close image to what they were before. So it's not going to be a totally new character, but it's going to be changed in subtle and in some cases major ways. The changes can be physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, so on and so forth. So don't just think of emotional and physical changes. Get into the spiritual changes as well. Tony, you actually do a really good job of this with your characters in First World. So, why are there two ordeals? Why do we have an ordeal and a resurrection that's the climax? Well, the ordeal was like the midterm exam that you're prepping for with the pop quizzes. The resurrection is the final exam. It's usually a cumulative exam, which is part of the harder ones because you have to remember, what did I learn 6 months ago, or at the beginning of the semester, or whatever, that kind of thing. The final test exists to see if the hero learned their lesson and retained that knowledge throughout the course of the novel. It's the final showdown between the hero and the shadow. So be careful on picking who your shadow is here, because this is one of the key scenes of the book. In 007's Goldfinger, the bad guy that was making the nuke has been vanquished, but the nuke is still armed and going. So in this case, the shadow is the nuclear device, not the human that built it. So they've already put the bad guy down and discovered where the nuke's at. Now they have to go defuse the nuke. That's where the danger is the highest, because the countdown is getting the lowest. The hero should be the active character in this critical juncture. They should be the one to kill the shadow, to vanquish the shadow, to defuse the bomb, whatever. They got to be the guy doing the job. An ally can save the day. That's usually a mistake, but if you do it well, it doesn't have to be. So, like everything I'm saying today, just because I say usually something doesn't mean that that's an absolute must. So. There can only be one winner, period. Either the shadow wins or the hero wins. Typically, the hero is going to be the winner, just because that's how we tend to root for the good guys, and we like to see them win. If you have many open subplots, you'll need many resurrections. Because you'll need to tie them all together and close out things. So, I have a typo here. So, resurrection is the logical climax of the hero's character's arc ass, well as the story. So there's an extra S in there.
What the hell's an arc ass?
I was wondering that myself. So, so you've got the character arc that comes across the story. Yeah. This is where the most change happens to your hero, to your characters. And it's also pretty much your last chance to change the character as well. So if you have something that absolutely must be done to the character for the conclusion of the book, this is your last shot in doing it, almost always. So, and then returning with the elixir. This is where they return to the ordinary world with that fancy thing that they just got from the special world in order to somehow improve, heal, or better, or fix the ordinary world. The return is the denouement, which means a letting down. It unties, actually it's like French for untying a knot, something like that. So it's where all your plot stuff unwraps and unties. In Western art, mostly European, American, that kind of thing, there's a sense of closure or completion to everything. In Asian art forms, there is typically a great deal of questions left open or unanswered, that way for introspection, that kind of thing. So Tony, your writing is very Asian in that manner, where you wrap up all your character arcs and your plot points, at least in First World, Rise of First World, but you leave so many questions open for the reader to ask themselves, that introspection of, how can I improve myself through what I learned in the book, or how does it affect me, that kind of thing. So